Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at upgrading the brand new starter deck that's going to be releasing alongside of BT08, Parallel World Tactician. So Parallel World Tactician, like all of the other starter decks before, follows the 2 deck rule where you're going to want to purchase 2 copies of the deck so that way you can have a playset of all of the cards in said deck. And if you're looking to upgrade the deck just with those 2 starter decks, then you would probably want to end up with something like this in order to have a slightly more powerful and cohesive experience in terms of what the deck is trying to do and the gameplay it's trying to offer. But we could take this and go even further with some cards from BT08 to make a very fun and very powerful deck with. Now, when upgrading the deck to its full potential, you should end up with something like this. Granted, you are going to be needing more than just a couple of cards from BT08 to really make this deck shine. But this deck is going to be a very powerful deck that's trying to take advantage of the new DNA digivolution or Jogris mechanic to basically combine 2 stacks into a new Digimon to be extra aggressive with. And the new cards from the starter deck really help facilitate this strategy. Now, Mastemon and the purple-yellow color combination has gotten some support here and there, but nothing as big as what we're getting here with BT08 and this new starter deck. The big thing to note with this starter deck is it's actually trying to play a little bit more into that Megazoo-esque style of gameplay while having like 1 or 2 desired evolution lines that you're actually going to try to get to be able to utilize this new version of Mastemon as efficiently as we possibly can. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the deck is going to be bad or slow. It just means that you're going to have to play and build it a little bit differently than what you normally are used to, because we have the ability to try to take advantage of very powerful on-play abilities and utilize various different mechanics from both purple and yellow to not only interact with our security, but interact with our trash as well, to easily set up very powerful lines of play with. Adding to the overall customization and flexibility that you could use when making this deck, and I think this is going to be a really solid core or shell just to get those creative juices flowing. So without further ado, onto the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of DemiMeramon. So DemiMeramon is still just one of the best, if not the best, generic purple Digitama that we have because of his inheritable ability of on delete, where we can do draw 1 card and then discard 1 card from our hand. So this is just really good at seeing more cards out of our deck and help try to fill up our trash with specific parts and pieces we want to be able to combo off with. And then as far as the 5th Digitama of the deck goes, it could really be anything you want it to be, and I was going back and forth on if I wanted MagnaAngemon to be the main Digitama or not, but I decided going with something a little bit more generic might be a little bit better. But MagnaAngemon for the deck is still a really good Digitama because of its inheritable ability of when attacking, if we have a yellow Digimon in play, then we get to draw 1 card, and if we do, then we have to discard 1 card, so it's just doing something very similar to DemiMeramon, just needing the requirement of a yellow Digimon in play, which isn't necessarily hard considering we have lots of 2-color Digimon and a good healthy spread of purple and yellow Digimon to use. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gazimon. So Gazimon is in the deck because he is an anti-meta card to try to help reduce and limit some of the opponent's actions. What Gazimon is doing more specifically is he's reducing the ability to gain memory on anything outside of their tamer effects to try to turn off those memory manipulating shenanigans, so they're going to have to deal with Gazimon before they could try to think about making some of their more powerful plays possible. And in that similar sentiment, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Psychmon, because Psychmon is another anti-meta card, where he has the nice all turns ability where players can't reduce their play costs, so he's acting as another floodgate to, again, try to reduce and limit some of the opponent's actions, forcing them to deal with Psychmon before they can make their plays more efficient. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Candlemon. So Candlemon is a yellow Digimon that could digivolve off of a purple or yellow level 2, so we have easier access on using our Digitamas, and we could even customize the deck to try to gain an easier access to our Digitamas to be able to customize that slot better. But regardless, Candlemon has a really good ability for the deck, where his inheritable ability states that during your turn once per turn, when you play another purple Digimon, then you get to gain 1 memory, doubling down and incentivizing on the fact that you do want to kind of play this Megazoo-esque style of deck to help make it playing your cards even more efficient than they normally would be. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Salamon. So Salamon is one of the most important rookies on how this deck is built, because ideally you're going to want to build up 1 stack in your raising, then move it out, then hard play a level 5, and be able to Jogger's right away with, and Salamon is making it possible to be able to Jogger's right away with its inheritable ability, where at the end of your turn, you could DNA Digivolve this Digimon and your other Digimon into a Digimon card from your hand by paying its DNA Digivolution cost, so that way we could actually go up our stages and be able to use our cards as efficiently as we possibly can. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Black Gatomon. So this version of Black Gatomon is really good because it is a 2-color Digimon, so it's already fitting in line with the color combinations of purple and yellow. It is a little bit on the expensive side to Digivolve into, so most of the time we don't actually want to Digivolve into this, and this is going to be a really good res target because it natively has the Rush ability, so that way when we play it off of our card effects, then we could use this card to attack with right away. And on top of that, if we actually are using this as a good card to climb, then it also has a nice inheritable ability of giving whatever Digimon we're Digivolving on top of it the retaliation ability, so that way the opponent doesn't necessarily want to try to delete our Digimon, especially through combat. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Wizardmon. So this is the starter deck version of Wizardmon, and we're only using this card as a solid card to try to make it Digivolving a little bit easier than something compared to Black Gatomon, which we just saw, because he could Digivolve for 2 off of a level 3 purple or yellow Digimon, on top of being a purple and yellow Digimon himself to use for our higher stages, so that way we don't necessarily need to worry about our color when we're Digivolving up our stages. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Gatomon. So this is the starter deck version of Gatomon, and this Gatomon allows us to have multiple different ways on how to play her. So we could Digivolve on top of a purple or a yellow level 3 for only 3, which is a little bit more expensive compared to something like Wizardmon, which we just saw, but we also have a nice on-play ability in case we actually don't want to Digivolve on top of this card, where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck and add 1 purple Digimon and 1 yellow Digimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this is a good digging tool to try to help with the consistency of the deck and find our parts and pieces, on top of the fact that she also has a nice static ability where during your turn, when this Digimon Digivolves into a Digimon with Archangel or Fallen Angel in its type, then we get to reduce the Digivolution cost by 2, making it so it's even easier to Digivolve up into our higher stages with when she's just sitting on the field. And then on top of that, the inheritable ability is the main reason why we want to use this card, so that way at the end of our turn, we could DNA Digivolve this Digimon and your other Digimon into a Digimon from your hand by paying its DNA Digivolution cost, so that way we could just have easier and more access to this type of ability to be able to utilize our DNA Digivolution ability even easier than we normally would be, in case we're trying to pass the turn over to the opponent because we need to hard play a lot of our cards. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 3 copies of LadyDevimon. So LadyDevimon is going to be one of the primary Digimon we actually want to Digivolve into and not necessarily hard play, because she has a when Digivolving ability where we get to draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards from our hand. So this looting ability, again, is really powerful at not only just finding lots of cards, because we're drawing lots of cards, but helps set up our trash with more specific cards for our particular synergies that we're trying to line up. And then on top of that, she has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn, once per turn, when you use a option card, then we get to delete one of the opponent's level 3 Digimon, acting as some extra control for literally just using our options, and we have a few solid options that we want to be trying to take advantage of. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lucemon Chaos Mode. So Lucemon Chaos Mode, for the way this deck is being played, is a card we just want to hard play and play for free off of some of our various other abilities. So his on-play ability states that we could delete one of the opponent's tamers or level 6 or lower Digimon, acting as a really powerful control tool for us to be using, because he could delete a wide variety of Digimon. We could Tekken build the deck to incorporate more of the other Lucemon, but it's not necessarily needed, and he has a nice ability to help make his play cost a little bit cheaper. For every 10 cards we have in our trash, we could reduce his play cost from our hand by 3, but again, we have various different ways to be able to play this card, not only just as a good card to hard play from our hand, but off of some of our various other abilities. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of LadyDevimon. So this is the starter deck version of LadyDevimon, and this version of LadyDevimon has a lot of different ways on how we could use her. So she does have a slightly lower play cost in case we actually do need to hard play her just to be able to get an easy Jogress right away, or we could Digivolve her for 3 off of a level 4 yellow or green Digimon, so she has an easy way to be able to Digivolve up into her, and on top of that, she has a good when Digivolving ability we want to try to take advantage of, where we get to discard 1 card from our hand to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck. Then we could add 1 yellow and 1 purple Digimon that is an Angel, Archangel, or Fallen Angel, and to add it into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. Even this Digimon is trying to look for our parts and pieces to be able to make the deck more consistent, on top of the fact that she has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn, all of your yellow Digimon gain the retaliation ability, so it's not only just boosting whatever Digimon we're going to be Digivolving on top of, but all of our other yellow Digimon as well, to be really annoying for the opponent because of that retaliation ability to stop and limit some of the actions that they might want to take, or feel the punishment of that retaliation to delete their Digimon. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of MagnaAngemon. So this is the BT01 version of MagnaAngemon, and this is just another level 5 Digimon that we just want to hard play more often than not because he has a really good on-play ability to be able to recover 1. So he has no restriction on his recovery ability, making him one of the better cards to just slam on the field and DNA Digivolve right away with. Then on top of that, he has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for every 3 cards we have in our security, and because we are also playing a little bit into our security and trying to keep our security as healthy as possible, we could use this ability to make whatever Digimon we're using on top of him a little bit stronger than they might normally be. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Angelmon. So this is the starter deck version of Angelmon, and we're using her as another really good card to have different ways on how we could play her. Most of the time, she's going to be another card we just want to hard play to be able to Jogress right away with, because she has the on-play ability where one of the opponent's Digimon gets security attack -2 to try to prevent them from dealing damage and keep our security as healthy as we possibly can. But if we do need to Digivolve into her, then we have that availability to easily Digivolve into her regardless of the colors, because we're already playing purple and yellow level 4s in the deck, so we don't necessarily need to worry about the fact that she could Digivolve on top of a purple or yellow Digimon, and it just adds to the overall playability of the card. Then what we're trying to gain out of this card on top of all of that, for being a card we want to DNA Digivolve with to get into our higher stages, is her inheritable ability where during your turn, while we have a purple Digimon in play, then this Digimon gains security attack +1, so it allows whatever level 6 that we're using to be able to punch it a little bit harder than they normally would, which is a huge drawback and flaw to what a lot of yellow decks were doing before, and this kind of helps shore up that weakness, because both of our level 6s are both parts purple and part yellow. Next, on to the level 6s, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Omnimon Fall Down Mode. So Omnimon Fall Down Mode is a purple and yellow Digimon and has the ability to Digivolve off of purple and yellow level 5s, so we're not really worried about whatever level 5 we have because they're all going to be usable with Omnimon Fall Down Mode, and we want to use a good combination of cards for her when Digivolving ability to be as powerful as we could possibly make it, because her when Digivolving ability states that if this Digimon has a purple Digivolution source, then we get to delete one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon, and if this Digimon has a yellow in its Digivolution source, then we get to recover 1 from our deck. So she's just a really good Swiss Army knife type card to try to take advantage of both of those abilities, because we are playing with a lot of purple and yellow Digimon, obviously. Then we also could try to take advantage of her on delete ability, where we get to play one purple or yellow level 4 or lower Digimon from our trash for free. So the best card that we could use in combination with Omnimon Fall Down Mode's on delete ability is going to be Black Gatomon, so that way we could try to take advantage of the rush to be extra aggressive with. But if we need to, we could take a Floodgate, or we could take some other cards to do some various other things with, like the Gatomon from the starter deck to trigger its on-play ability and start trying to Digivolve right away to line up more DNA Digivolution plays. And then the last level 6 of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the brand new starter deck version of Mastemon. So this starter deck version of Mastemon we're trying to use for its DNA Digivolution ability, where we could Digivolve it for 0 as long as we have a yellow level 5 and a purple level 5 on our field. Then we're going to combine the stacks to be able to Digivolve into this Mastemon. Otherwise, we're going to have to pay 5 to Digivolve it on top of a purple or yellow level 5, which is a little bit expensive. And we definitely want to try to take advantage of this DNA Digivolution ability, not only just for the tempo, but for the ability that we gain off of her when Digivolving ability, where we get to place a yellow or purple Digimon from our trash on the top of our security stack face down. Then if we DNA Digivolved into this card, we get to look at our security stack and play a level 5 or lower Digimon from it for free, and then we get to shuffle our security stack. So we have very powerful level 5s with good on-play abilities that we want to take advantage of with this ability. Then on top of that, she has a very good all-turns ability, where when we play another Digimon by a card effect, we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon that has the same level or less than the Digimon that we just played. So this just allows us to easily pop at anything that's level 5 or lower, because ideally we're going to be wanting to play level 5s off of her when Digivolving ability. And then the last mega of the deck is going to be the only level 7, and that's going to be 3 copies of Omnimon Zwart Defeat. So Omnimon Zwart Defeat, both of our level 6s are part purple, so we actually can use them to easily Digivolve into this card to get his when Digivolving ability to delete one of the opponent's tamers, to try to stop or limit some of their tamer shenanigans. Then we also could try to take advantage of this card's security ability, where he gets to come out of the security for free just because we do have lots of ways to try to recover in the deck. Then he also has a really good passive on delete ability for when he actually does get deleted, where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon, acting as just one of the best control tools that we have for how easy it is to play him. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Flame Hellscythe. So we do need to have both colors present on our field when we're going to be playing this card, which isn't hard because we have lots of purple and yellow Digimon. But what this card is doing and what we're trying to take advantage of is the main ability where one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 6,000 DP for the turn. Then we get to play a purple or yellow Digimon with 6,000 DP or less from our trash for free. So not only is it killing an opponent's Digimon, it's allowing us to res a Digimon as well, making for some very powerful plays because we have lots of good Digimon that have 6,000 DP, namely some of our level 5s, making it cheaper to even play some of our level 5s. Then we also want to try to take advantage of this card's security ability because its security effect activates its main to, again, not only try to control the opponent's field, but to help play some of our Digimon as well. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Reinforced Memory Boost because, well, we can only play 1 card because this card was so good, it was limited to 1. So what this card is doing is it has the main ability where we get to check the top 2 cards of our deck, place one of them into our security face down, and the other goes into our hand, not only just rigging our security, but replacing itself in our hand, and it has the main ability of delay. For after it's done, it'll go onto the battlefield, and we get to gain 3 memory at a later turn, which is a lot of memory all at once, making it one of the more powerful memory boosts in the game. Then it also has the nice security ability of adding itself to the battle area to use that delay ability whenever we feel like it at a later turn. And then the last option of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Chaos Degrade. So this is going to be the big hard removal card for the deck, and this is a very powerful removal card because it's actually adding a new type of removal that a lot of cards don't have any protection against. So what this card is doing is it has the main ability where we get to place one of the opponent's Digimon on the top or bottom of their security stack face down. then if we did, we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack. So ideally, if it's a really powerful Digimon that you just want gone, you're going to use Chaos Degrade to put it on top and then burn the top of their security stack, so it's going to go into the trash. But if you don't necessarily want that Digimon into the trash, then you have the option to put it onto the bottom and trash the top instead. So just that flexibility on not only getting the Digimon off the field, but burning their security is just insanely powerful. Just then its security ability is also pretty good, where we get to place one of your opponent's Digimon at the top or bottom of their security stack face down. So even though the security ability isn't going to be burning the opponent's security, it's still getting rid of a Digimon off the field and making that Digimon inaccessible for the opponent to use for the most part. So it's still just a very powerful removal option for the deck to use. And then the last card of the deck and only tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Kari Kamiya. So this brand new version of Kari Kamiya is going to be acting as the deck's dedicated memory fixer, so that way when our memory is ever less than 3, it'll always be hard set to 3 to try to make our plays as efficient as we possibly can. Then she has an upside where during your turn, when a card is added to your security stack, then we could suspend this tamer to gain a memory, and the reason why we want multiple of this versus running something like TK is even though TK is good at helping with the deck's consistency, this just helps make playing our cards a little bit easier and more efficient, so we want that efficiency rather than the consistency because we have the consistency in various other places. And then there's still just a ton of room for customization and flexibility depending on the types of cards that you're using and want to gain out of the deck. So you could use something like Tapirmon as just a generic level 3 to try to help gain some card draw and be relatively aggressive with, because we're going to be hard playing or could hard play our higher stages and focus more onto that gameplay a little bit more. Then we also could think about using something like Gazimon to just be a really good card to help DB boost our Digimon if we're doubling down or focusing on that discard sub-theme. Then we do have some really good other digging cards that we could try to take advantage of in the form of Tsukaimon from the starter deck and Classic Collection version of Patamon to try to help dig out our angels, archangels, fallen angels, or 3 great angels, depending on how you're building the deck and what you want to use. And speaking of a really good angel that we could possibly think about utilizing is going to be Lucemon, just because he is a level 3 that we could hard play for cheap if we fill up our trash enough. He has good synergy with the other Lucemon as a digivolution point, and we have multiple different ways on being able to res this card, so we could try to bypass his cost and just be able to play him for free for his recovery ability. Then, if we wanted to, we could also think about running Cutemon as another floodgate for us to utilize in the deck. And we even have Eismon Scatter Mode as a really easy level 4 to just hard play, and if he gets deleted, cool. If he doesn't, then we could use him as a solid evolution point. And we also have some security Digimon we could think about playing in the form of Witchmon, just because Witchmon could also add to the overall consistency, because we could fill up our trash with some of our discard or mill-based abilities, and then use something like Witchmon to try to help retrieve some of those cards. And then we do have other Mastemon-based tools that we could lean into. So we do have the Promo Gatomon to interact with the fact that this could be a blocker that just naturally fits in with the deck because we're trying to use the on-play ability to recover, and we have ways to res this card to make it even more efficient to play. And we even have some really good anti-meta level 5s that we could run in the form of LadyDevimon as another floodgate for the opponent trying to play and utilize their tamers. And if you do just want a budget level 5 that you could think about playing in place of Lucemon Chaos Mode, then we do have the starter deck of Bastimon to act as a really solid replacement for that. And then as far as some other solid level 6s that we could use the BT03 version of Mastemon because, well, she's Mastemon and she'll pair up nicely with the new Mastemon based on how they want to play. And we even have Creepymon as a really interesting card to think about splashing, just because he'll help fill up our trash and utilize our trash in a more meaningful way. Then we also do have cards like Calling from the Darkness to try to trigger our on-delete abilities ourselves if we're going into that direction, while also recycling and being able to reuse lots of our cards. It is more specific towards purple Digimon, but we still have lots of good purple Digimon we want to try to use and reuse, and this will also target the yellow-purple Digimon because, well, they're also part purple. Then if we do want to double down on the Lucemon sub-theme that we could include into the deck because we're already thinking about running Chaos Mode, then we could add in Dead or Alive to be able to use and reuse said Chaos Mode. And then we do have some memory boosts that we could run either in purple or yellow, just to try to help with the deck's overall consistency and use the delay ability to gain some instant memory at a later turn. And if we are trying to use and reuse our cards while helping fill up our trash, then we also have Darkness Wave as another solid card to think about to incentivize that type of strategy. And then we also have just a slew of different tamers that we could run based on where the deck space is and what kind of tamers you're looking for. So we could use something like a BT04 Kari to try to be a really good generic purple tamer for us to use, especially in combination with something like the BT01 TK, where we get to utilize our security in a more meaningful way. And if we're trying to take advantage of trying to use our security, then we also could use something like TK and Kari to gain lots of memory. And we even have something like Cody to just generically help us gain some extra memory because we're going to be hard playing lots of our Digimon. On top of the fact that he could also help DP reduce our opponent's Digimon for us literally playing 2-color Digimon, which is something the deck is already doing. But all that really means is that this is going to be a really fun and interesting deck to build because of all of the different types of cards and tools that we have access to, on top of the different ways that we could play the deck. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.